Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're testing the community launcher, which I'll be releasing soon. We're also taking a look at the MCP server, Vincent, and I've got a project plan that we're going to run through from start to finish. One thing I can already tell you, as always, it's going to be exciting, and some things won't quite work out either. But you'll get a great overview of what you can actually pull off nowadays with a small model, using nothing but simple, everyday tools. You don't always need the most expensive gear. Often, what you've already got is the best tool for the job. Does a small model really hold up for serious projects, or is that just marketing talk? Let's take a look at the community launcher interface. I kept it as simple as possible. Here you select your model, set the context window, define the GPU layers, and set a few flags. You can find everything else explained in detail on GitHub. For now, we'll just pick a model to start with, and down here are the buttons for that. With this interface, you can control llama.cpp very easily and launch a model. But first, let's take a look at our chat interface. Here we have the community chat interface, which allows us to practically read metrics, token speed, temperature, fan speed, CPU speed, all the things you need. We also have a power measurement in watts. This community chat window enables simplified tests, for example, to measure the speed of token generation, and is suitable for very simple chats. It has no MCP connection so that the client remains lean and fast. You start it simply via the chat button in the community launcher. And in the background, we already asked two small questions. First, the model was supposed to briefly introduce itself and say what it can do, and after that there was simply a basic thank you. By the way, you can see which model and which quantization are running here in the top right of the chat UI. The full model name is displayed right there. Okay, I think we've now gotten a good overview. The second feature, with the llama button, we can open the native llama.cpp UI directly in the launcher. And here we also have the option to integrate an MCP server. We've already done that, and I'll explain it in detail in a later video. Let's take a look at which tools are activated and which ones we want to deactivate. Because the more tools are activated, the longer the loading time, or rather, the time until the first token. Here too, we start with a simple question, namely, who are you and what can you do? Introduce yourself briefly. And here in this interface, we also have the ability to see the token speed. We can see the context window, we can see how many tokens have already been used, we see the time, we see the agent turns, and we also see the model name. We are using a dense model, specifically Qwen 3.5 9B in Q4 quantization. Okay, and the actual goal of this test is to see how well the model stays in context. For this, we gave it tasks where it has to independently pull information from the internet and do research. In the end, it should summarize everything and generate a nice web page for us. As we do this, we pay special attention to how many agentic steps it completes without errors. Okay, the first test, a very simple Hello World standard page, supposed to look a bit fancy and modern, but basically easy. Overall, the test took about 70 minutes. I basically left the recording as one continuous take, but in some places I sped it up a lot, and in other places I slowed it down again so you can also see the real performance of the output. And as you already know from this channel, I of course picked a few tracks for you that play in the background. So first relax, drink some water, and enjoy. See you in a moment. Okay, the first run is done, and we get a nicely listed confirmation that everything was carried out as requested. What we also see here in the llama.cpp web UI, the agent turns, the prompt processing speed, and the token usage so far. I'm not going to go into the numbers individually, you can see them yourselves. As for the setup, the whole thing is running on a Vega 56 in an Office PC case. Okay, let's take a look at what came out of it. I'm pleasantly surprised, this really looks modern and slick. It moves nicely, the colors work. And let's be honest, normally Hello World is just a command on a black screen. Here though, there's an actual globe spinning in front of a starry background, plus some extra info on top. Pretty ambitious for a simple Hello World. The one thing that's not quite where it should be, I think, is the navigation bar. Let's check out how the page behaves when we resize the window, bigger or smaller. Yeah, the navigation bar issue is still there, But other than that, it looks really solid. The content adjusts cleanly when you resize the window. But that's not important for us right now. We're happy with the test so far. We're deliberately not fixing this issue yet. We're saving it for later. That way, we can see whether the model still remembers it down the line and how well it actually handles context. So we're holding on to this one for a follow-up test. The next test is a bit more demanding. Here, it's mainly about whether the MCP server gets addressed correctly and whether the model actually does real research. The task: pull weather data from 3 cities and turn it into a 3-day forecast overview, find 2 points of interest for each city, and also check the exchange rates to the euro. The catch: the agent has to juggle all these subtasks in its head, work through them cleanly, and pull it all together into one coherent answer before it even replies. And of course, just like before, we want it all displayed nicely on an HTML page. And there's the confirmation for the second task, completed successfully, with a nice summary explaining what the model actually did. All 3 cities were correctly identified, the weather data checks out, and so do the exchange rates. On top of that, there's a short technical overview with some design highlights, all in all, really cleanly described. Alright, let's check out what it came up with. And if you're enjoying the video so far, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks in advance for that. Great, that worked too. We got all the info we asked for, the 3-day weather overview, the exchange rates, all of it. What stands out again though is that the navigation bar is smack in the middle of the screen once more. Probably not intentional, but like I said, we'll take this as our chance now. I'm going to try fixing the issue directly with a prompt, and let's see if that works. The first fix attempt went through successfully too. We get another nice confirmation listing everything out. Now the question is, of course, Did it actually get implemented, and does it actually work? We can't see direct code changes here, but we could use VS Code with the Continue plugin to view the code directly, or alternatively the Claude CLI, which also lets us track code changes. And all of that right through the Community Launcher. Honestly, this one went completely sideways. As you can see, it actually turned out worse than before. Now we've got duplicate fonts, and even when we resize the window or drag it around, the navigation bar is nowhere to be found. Just didn't work out. Maybe our prompt was too vague, so we'll give it one more shot. We'll have it roll back the changes. Normally, it automatically creates a backup and restores from that. Let's check in a second whether that actually works. So, it reports back that the backup restore is done and lists everything it did once again. Let's take a look, and as we can see, basically nothing actually changed. I think we now either need to adjust the prompt or the context window is getting maxed out to the point where the model's starting to hallucinate. The tool calls are working fine, and it's confirming everything, so it doesn't seem to be a fundamental understanding issue. Let's take stock here for a second. We've now had 2 failed attempts. Restoring the backup didn't actually work properly, and the navigation bar still isn't fixed either. So neither of those worked out. Now we're going to try a different approach, but we're deliberately staying in the same chat to test whether it can still handle the context at this point. This time, the prompt is simply a confirmation the model had claimed the navigation bar was now properly adjusted, which isn't accurate. Still, we're just going to say, yep, looks good, and have it generate the Hello World page again. Let's see what we get. Wow, that actually worked. It generated a genuinely beautiful page and fixed the navigation bar issue along the way, integrating it really cleanly this time. Everything's running smoothly, complete with matching icons throughout. I really like the layout of the page. The globe animation runs great, the little emojis are animated, the text has this nice glow effect going on, and the background, along with the shadow effects, all comes together really well. Overall, I'd say test passed. So, let's check out the responsive capabilities now. Does the page hold up well on mobile devices too? For that, we'll run a few tests, shrinking and expanding the window, and everything looks really solid. The text adjusts automatically, and any iPad or iPhone would handle this page without issues. So the prompt clearly worked really well, which is why we're not going to change it much this time. We'll just say, do the same thing with our weather overview, and see what comes out of that. One thing worth pointing out here, pretty much everything runs locally, aside from the web search, whenever the model goes online to research something. As for the framework, we're exclusively using llama.cpp through our community launcher. You'll find more details on all of that in the description, as always. One thing that's also really nice about the llama.cpp web UI is that you can clearly see the prompt processing speed. After asking it to handle this the same way it did with the Hello World page, in order to fix the navigation bar issue, it has to run the entire context back through memory. And that's exactly where the Vega 56, with its HBM2 memory, shows what it's still capable of despite its age. When it comes to prompt processing, memory bandwidth is what really matters. The more you've got, the faster it runs. With this dense model, we're hitting over 200 tokens for prompt processing, and with Gemma 4e4b, even over 350. It's a good reminder too, not every model is the right fit for every task. Used strategically though, a local setup can already get you surprisingly far, especially since models keep getting smaller while also getting better. No wonder you keep hearing the term small language models come up more and more in this context. In the community launcher interface, we also have a live log section for the Llama server. Here you can see, for example, when the server starts up, whether the Vulkan backend is active and how many GPU layers are being used. By the way, if you set GPU layers to 0, you're running pure CPU fallback inference. In the community chat UI, we're seeing power draw of around 130 watts at about 17 tokens per second here. As mentioned, this mode is mainly meant for benchmarking and quick chats. Since we wanted to keep it lightweight, there's no MCP interface here. On a side note, our MCP server Vincent is holding up really well too. As we know, the llama.cpp UI has no tools, so it can't create or write anything at all. Vincent, on the other hand, passed the test. You can launch Vincent via Python, either with or without a venv environment, depending on whether you're using something like Playwright, YouTube, or Google Trends tools, or other frameworks. The write and run commands, though, always work fine without a venv environment. The weather page with top navigation is done now. We can see the AI reporting that it's finished. Once again, staying nice and positive, it lists out everything it did, all neatly formatted, a really clean status report. And this was all done with a 9B model at Q4__M quantization. Pretty impressive. By the way, llama.cpp has gained a huge amount of power with the recent updates. Compared to where things stood 6 months ago, that's a massive leap. Honestly, you barely even need a separate CLI for this anymore at this point. But back to the test, we haven't actually looked at the result yet. Did it manage to produce an error-free HTML page? Let's take a look right now. Okay, see for yourselves, and wow, it actually fixed it. I'm really happy with the result. All the weather data, all the tips, and the euro exchange rates are all displayed nicely, animated well, with matching emojis. Everything just works, cleanly organized, no errors in sight. Let's run one more responsive check. No issues there either. Everything runs super smoothly when you resize the window. Responsive check, passed. And here's our Hello World page again for comparison. All in all, the test took about 70 minutes, or rather, that's roughly how much footage I ended up with from the session. The machine was also idle for about 5 to 7 minutes at some point, so let's just say it was around an hour of actual time overall. So, that's it for this video. Or rather, this was a small preview of the community launcher for llama.cpp on Linux and our Vincent MCP server. I hope you were able to get a good impression of how easy it is to control llama.cpp via the launcher. The project will be available on GitHub soon. We're close to the release, so stay tuned. At the same time, this is also the starting signal for our QN3. 5 test series, we'll take a look at different model sizes and fine-tunes, test them, and also see how our budget Vega 56 performs. Just this much in advance, it's going to be exciting, and I was surprised myself, I really didn't expect that. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That way you won't miss any new videos. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.